This has been an interesting week. A lot of focus on traditional tech, I would say, over the past week. We've talked about AI all the time, but the lead story for us is really around Microsoft's cloud, which I guess cloud computing is now legacy computing and old school.
It's about AI. What are you talking about? This is an AI.
It is about AI, but one of the interesting things that Satya Nadella brought up last week in the his Q1 earnings call is that Microsoft is spending less time on model training on their cloud and a lot more on inferencing, which has been a big driver for the $10 billion in run rate that they have in AI revenue right now. According to Microsoft, this is the fastest that any product has ever gotten to a $10 billion run rate. I guess, at some point it becomes real money even for Microsoft.
Well, I think there are two big, like to me, almost shocking revelations in this, and then like a math equation that equals then something else. And the root before I mention what those are, I guess, is that we have to remember that all of this is baked into Microsoft's focus on Azure, which, in case you forgot, they were late to the game, and it is shocking. So the first shocking that they are now doing $10 billion in revenue on the Azure cloud specific to AI. That is just
Mhm.
staggering on both fronts, that how quickly they were able to sort of pivot and put this together. And I know it's been a while now in terms of, whatever it's been 8 or 10 years, but it is still a pretty shocking turn to have this much focus. So to me, the $10 billion number is a pretty staggering number. With the second revelation, because it's not just even most. I mean, what he said in this call was that they are turning away requests to use their GPUs for training because there's so much demand on inference. And what the math equation says, what that equals is that means there are a whole bunch of enterprise accounts. Not, I don't think they're exclusively enterprise, right? There are tech vendors that use Microsoft, but I would think this is largely enterprise use cases that are using $10 billion worth of services for AI workloads, execution, operationalizing AI workloads. That is a staggering number. That, we talked a lot about how much of this is hype, how much of this is real. I would love to, I don't think they're going to give us more detail, but I would love to like dive into that to really understand where that is coming from, and what is actually driving it. But that is certainly giving some credence to the fact that this isn't just a normal kind of hype cycle that is going to take years to materialize, that companies are aggressively moving down this road.
Yes, the level of experimentation is just astounding. And the fact that they Microsoft isn't even bothering to look at model training, it means there's a bunch of experiments that aren't even getting off the ground for Microsoft customers because Microsoft has to focus on the nitty gritty of actually getting things up and running rather than letting everybody do what they want to in playing with models and experimenting with potentially new model creation. So I find that surprising as well, that as much as we talk about the hype and as overrated as AI may feel in some respects, it is actually probably underrated in terms of the amount of revenue being put into AI and the effects that that has on the IT budgets. Obviously, there is additional growth to be had in AI and in the IT budget, and this is probably going to be something that has to be formalized at the CIO level. We can't just continue to keep shoving these $10 billion annual spends under the carpet and just hope that we just find extra bits and quarters and dimes in the couch.
Well, I do think there's two additional elements here that I think are important to sort of take note of. The first is we've talked in the past about Anthropic and OpenAI and the fact that they're losing so much money. Well, in the same report, Microsoft announced that they had spent $20 billion in capex to generate that 10 billion in revenue, which is up from 14 billion the last quarter. Again,
Oh,
as staggering as that $10 billion in revenue is, it's overshadowed by the fact there's a double that in cost. Now that's capex spend, so it's going to get amortized. and they're clearly making these long-term investments, but it is sort of, the economics have to play out at some point, and that's going to be the question mark, because particularly with inference, more than model training, is that that's an ongoing cost, right? Not necessarily the
Mhm.
capex side of it, but the operational cost of it. So that's something that I think, there's going to be this ongoing sort of push and pull on the cost models around all of this. And then the other element that I think is worth taking note of, and I didn't share this article because I didn't have access to the full thing, but the snippet from she was called the information. Is that what it's called?
Mhm.
I think that's what it's called. And
It's the
but they had an
information.
article, yeah, that is talking about the fact that this spending in AI is coming now at the cost. They're starting to see downward trend, that this budget is being pulled from traditional cloud spending, traditional SaaS spending, within the enterprise. And so that, I think, is interesting. This is not a completely new generative bucket of budget, that this is being pulled from other places, at least in part. And so that, if you're a software company that is not in AI, or this isn't your core, then that's something that I think, you need to be thinking about and watching very carefully.
Yes, we talked last week about the some of the Gartner IT trends and how IT spend was growing 7 to 9% overall, with a ton of that coming from data center, but also a fair amount of that spend increase coming from the software world, where you just need more and more tools, API references and calls. All of this is going into your AI, and there's no way to really get around the data quality, data governance, APIs, contextualization of models, the inferencing. That, like, all of this has to be part of the project and part of the ongoing maintenance of any model that you consider to be relevant to your organization.
Yeah, and I do think we may see a full-fledged realignment on how budgets. Another article that I didn't pull,
Mhm.
but it was I forget. It was one of the major enterprises, like I think it was Transamerica or one of those, but talking about a complete structural realignment of their enterprise IT organizational model to
Mhm.
be focused more around AI. I'm not sure if I'm in that seat that I'd be doing that level of restructuring today. I'm not sure that I believe that AI is the end all be all of everything. There's, as we've talked about, there's so much blocking and tackling, but it still points to the fact that I think we are potentially on the cusp of this reordering of the way we look at budgets, and I think that's going to lead to some challenging decisions.